Today I am diving into the world of Power Rangers Samurai, or more specifically the second season Super Samurai, and I will do so through this action figure of Emily the Yellow Ranger from 2012, created by Bandai of America. I admit the main thing that interests me in Power Rangers are the Megazords. So if someone asks why did I bought this toy then, I will answer because it was very cheap. I found it at TK Maxx for around 8 zlotys. This is roughly $2.50, so when I first saw this toy I thought this is an incredibly cheap Power Ranger toy. But once I stopped looking at the price tag, I saw a very nice looking toy. Simple but nonetheless very nice looking. As it is with many Power Rangers attires throughout the history, Emily's costume design is not very elaborate, and I'd even say that most things that happen here take place on the front of the torso. As you can see, limbs, not much going on, back, not much going on except for the production marks. Well, the head is nice, and let's look at it. So we have the visor, which is shaped like the kanji symbol for Earth, and this symbol appears both here on the costume and on Emily's Zord. Quite nice, otherwise plain helmet. And the main costume part, it seems to be inspired by a kimono, by a samurai costume, something like that. And we have the Power Ranger symbol for this season over here, if you can see it. It appears on weapons, on Zords, pretty much on everything. And below that we have the belt with something on the front that looks like a buckle, but I think it also might be a storage place for a few of these disc things that connect to swords and other things. Below this arm we have the holster for the morpher, and it falls off really easy. And under this arm we have a connection point for the sword, about which I will talk in a moment. One thing that really catches my eye about this toy is how plainly human it is. If you look on the history of Power Ranger toys, especially male toys, you can see that most of them are very beefed out, look like superhumans who spent half of their lives in gym, and that looks unnatural, not really cool for me. But here, fairly simple build that looks a lot like what we can see on the show on the television, because the actors were not really beefed out, they were, well, fit but not super athletic, and I like that this translates into the figure this time around. And we also have one thing that is not exactly show accurate, well, more like two things. Yes, and this is, well, you know what it is. But it's interesting to see these things with a skirt around, because as you may know, actors that portray Power Rangers on the show all are pretty much flat, no matter if they are boys or girls. So the costumes for girls need to have skirts, so kids understand that they are looking either at a guy or at a woman. When they look at them without the skirt, that would be pretty hard. But here, I think this skirt could be omitted, because we have fairly good indicators of what gender we are looking at. I don't mind at all. Now let's go quickly through the posability, and I mean quickly because there's not much to work with. Starting with the head, we have just a simple 360 spin, so if you want to make power exhaustist, no problem with that. The arms are on universal joints, so their range is really nice, unobstructed. We have elbows that bend 90 degrees, and we have a side swivel that can work as a wrist, but I'd really like to have it above the elbow because that would add more range of motion to the arm. Right now it looks a lot like many Transformers from Energon line, and this is something I don't like. I'd really rather sacrifice the wrist for having a side swivel above the elbow. We don't have anything in the waist because of the design, and because of the skirt, the range of motion for the legs is really limited. This is rubber, so it will bend a bit, but nothing spectacular. So front movement, not so much. Back movement, not so much. Full split like you saw, impossible. And we have a 90-degree bend at the knees, and below we have a side swivel for the feet, but nothing below that. So like I said, fairly simple posability, but since this toy works for me mostly for the visual side, I think I don't mind as much as I could. Emily comes with two accessories, the first one being the sword, which is the main weapon of Rangers from this series. And it is a really simple sword. I'd even say it's more of an idea of a sword than the actual sword. Just orange piece of rubber with a silver blade. We have some basic details to represent the connected disc, the mirror for it, the rail for the morpher. It's quite bendy, not as much bendy as the Sword of Drift from Transformers Generations, but still, I'd say it's there to show that Emily uses a sword, but it's nothing spectacular. And you can also see the peg for the connection point on her belt, and I will show you how that works in a second. So, here we have the belt with Emily attached, and here we have the sword with the peg. So let the docking begin, and if you can aim properly through the eye of the camera, that's even better. There we go, lower the arm, and here we have the sword in it. I'm not going to say sheathed mode, because it's clearly not, more like standby mode. I don't get it, how don't these guys get hurt with these blades sticking out? I don't get it, but here we have it. And yeah, we have the possibility, but it doesn't look natural. This blade should be thinner, so the arm can rest lower, closer to the body. Right now it looks like she's holding some kind of a handbag. I just don't like it, so I prefer to have the sword in her hand. And now, with that said, let's talk about the second accessory. The Boomerang. And I'll be honest, I have no idea what is this thing supposed to do. I could not find any official posts, any official pictures where this is used by Emily. So my assumption is this was created specifically for this toy as an extra accessory. I know she uses some kind of shuriken boomerang in the show, but it looks different. So yeah, a simple toy accessory. And it's made of hard plastic at the center with rubber bits sticking outside. Wobbly, wobbly, wobbly again. It has the Earth symbol, it has two grips for the hands, and I believe that these strips of silver paint are supposed to be blades, so I think this is not really a throwing weapon, at least the toy isn't. It won't come back either, but more likely a close quarter weapon used as a sort of a second sword. And also we have this detail of the disc on the back. It can't connect to anything, so it's just here for a decoration purpose, I think. And I am happy to say that both of Emily's hands can firmly grip both of her weapons, and she looks really nice dual wielding, though once she is, you need to pay attention to her pose, because with the limited range of movement in her legs, it becomes tricky to shift her mass center accordingly so that it can work with all of this extra bulk. Because with such small feet, unless you are careful, this is very prone to happen. Bob, there she goes. And now it's time to compare Emily with some other toy versions of popular sword users. So starting from left to right, we have Metallic Red Dino Ranger from Power Rangers Megaforce, we have Retro Fire Zero Megazord, and we have Generations Deluxe Autobot Drift. And here is the Yellow Ranger accompanied by the common cola can, the marvelous €1 and the magnificent $1. To sum it all up, this is a very simple figure, as you may tell by the low portability and small accessory count. However, it's the visual side where it shines through, and I really like to look at it. So I think my $2.50 well spent. So if you can find it on some kind of sale, go for it. I don't think you will be disappointed. And that's all for this video review. I will be back with the next one soon. And until then, stay well.